Hey guys, so today I'm going to teach you how to propagate a Ctenanthe, which is a member of the prayer plant family. Many of us love the look of prayer plants, but they tend to be one of the harder plants to keep. However, some members of the prayer plant family, like the Ctenanthes, tend to be a little bit more resilient indoors, and I have a couple different versions here. This one is a Ctenanthe lubbersiana, and this one is a Ctenanthe burlemarxii, and you can see that I have a little division right here. But I'm actually going to teach you how to propagate your Ctenanthe, because this one, as you see here, which is also a Ctenanthe lubbersiana, is actually quite large. So typically when you go and you buy a Ctenanthe in the market, they'll look nice and bushy like this. But if you've had them for a while, they start to send out these long stems, as you can see here. And I've seen this actually in the wild and in botanic gardens. They'll just get, sometimes they'll have a nice bushy shape like this, and then all of a sudden you'll see this one stem coming up, and they'll put a bunch of leaves out on the top just like this. And they'll get very heavy, and oftentimes they'll drop to some soil. So if you have like soil down below, and they'll actually propagate that way. So that is exactly how we're going to propagate this Ctenanthe right here. So you will also see, before I ended up propagating this, that it's starting to put out some new leaves right here. And one of the things with Ctenanthes and a lot of prayer plants is they start to unroll their leaves, and they'll unroll them when they're about 80%. So you can see that they start like these cigar shape, and eventually they'll start to unroll. Now, you could actually propagate these by division. That's exactly how I propagated this one right here. So this is a small little Ctenanthe division that I ended up just taking out from one of these guys. And you'll see some of the new leaves coming up right here at the base of this. So if it's starting to fill its pot up, or some of the leaves are starting to overshadow the rest of the leaves down below, you could go in, remove some of those. But basically today I'm going to teach you how to propagate this one, because it's getting a little bit unmanageable, if you will. So what I'm using today is actually some really wonderful Espoma potting medium. And I'm also going to be using some biotone starter. So this is a really great substrate to use in order to be able to just sprinkle a few into your potting medium in order to help build up some of that natural biome within your potting medium. Because when you get potting medium, it's sterile. So there's nothing that's really like living in the potting medium. So I'm going to just take regular Espoma potting medium right now. And you'll see that this also has some good perlite in it. Typically, I would use a little bit more perlite in my mixture for taking some cuttings, but because Ctenanthe is a type of subtropical and tropical species that likes to be a little bit more on the moist side, I'm going to just keep it in this regular potting medium. Next, I'm going to add some biotone, and I actually put some of the biotone in this glass jar already, just for easier access. And I'm just going to mix that right into my soil. And I already made some soil here, which is where we're going to be propagating this Ctenanthe, but I didn't top it off, so I'm going to do that now. And you can see I'm just working with a mixing bowl and some spoons, because when you're working in an environment where you're working with smaller containers, I just find like a spoon and a mixing bowl is like perfect for what you need. Okay, and so I'm now going to create this little hole right above here, because that is where we are going to put the Ctenanthe. So this may seem a little bit shocking at first, because some of us are not used to actually taking propagations or even pruning back our plants. I, for one, like to have my plants grow out in all sorts of wild ways. But in this case, we're just gonna roughly come back about maybe 2, even 3 inches, and we're gonna just make a quick incision. And you wanna make sure that your shears are cleaned so that if you had anything that was on your plant to start, then it's not going to transfer over. So, if you're ready, we're gonna snip it off. There you go. So I made a quick incision. Now, if you have a little bit of rooting hormone, you could definitely dip that into rooting hormone. I don't think you'll need it. I mean, this plant is pretty ready in order to be able to root. You might even see, if you come up really close, you could see just some root nubs that are starting right here near the nose of these leaves. So I'm gonna make sure that when I stick this in, I'm gonna get this base right into the soil. As a matter of fact, this already feels too long. I'm gonna cut it off another inch. That way, this base part could actually fit into the soil. I'm just gonna add a little bit more soil around that. So sometimes when you take a cutting, you actually have to prop the plant up. But in this case, because of the way that the Ctenanthe is structured, you really don't have to do much propping. So now I'm just going to press the plant in there a little bit. And I'm also gonna give it a little bit of water. You don't wanna drench it too much because, again, the roots are not fully out. You just had a little bit of a nubbin, and you might not even have a nubbin on your plant. So what I'm gonna do is just moisten the soil a little bit. So again, this plant will want a lot more water when it has its roots, but again, much more resilient than, say, a Calathea, which is now considered a Juportia, or even sometimes a Maranta. So I'm just gonna give it a little bit of moisture, and that will at least lock it into place within the soil. And this airy mixture with some more of this perlite, which is a puffed volcanic stone, really provides enough airways for that water to kind of move through and the air to be pulled through down to the roots when the actual plant roots. Now, what you could do is put this in a bit more of an indirect light, and if you want to give it a little bit more humidity, that will increase the ability for this to root. As a matter of fact, I might actually leave this on my kitchen countertop because I have a fluorescent light that's underneath my countertop, and it actually heats up the countertop a little bit. So if you give it a little bit of heat, if you give it a little bit more indirect light and a bit more higher humidity, then those roots are going to start to form probably within 1 to 2 weeks. I mean, I'm in the non-growing season right now, but the fact that this is even putting out a little nubbin of a root just goes to show me that this plant is like ready for prime time and was ready to get out of this pot and into another one. So if you'll see that these, I could also go and propagate these if I wanted to as well, and chop that off and actually put this in and create a fuller looking plant. So as a matter of fact, I think I'm gonna do that because you're gonna start to see that this is going to look a lot more like this. So let's do that one more time. I'm gonna go about 2 inches behind because I found that 3 inches is a little bit too much. And I'm just gonna make an incision like that. And I'm going to just poke a hole down through there. I don't even need to use my finger because this is pretty sturdy of a stem already to be able to go down there. And this one is almost ready itself. And you know what? You could actually then keep this, and you could see some of the rootstock down here is starting to put out some new leaves and stems. So you could actually just keep this, and yes, it's gonna look a little bare, but probably within another month, you're going to have a few more popping right up in here. So I'm just gonna take this, and I'm gonna put that right down in here. So there you go, you have a really beautiful full Ctenanthe. Maybe it's not as full as this, but as soon as these leaves start to come out a little bit more, you could clip them back. And if you don't want this stem right here, you could just clip away like that. And I'm actually gonna keep this because you already have that rootstock down here and it's putting out some new leaves. So I'm not going to get rid of that. So there you go. It's super simple in order to be able to propagate your Ctenanthe. So don't be shy when it actually sticks out one of those long stems. If it has a little bit of a root nubbin on it, then you could just clip it off. You get your potting medium like I did with the Espoma potting medium, Just make sure it's nice and airy. And then if you'd like, you could add something like Biotone, which not only gives it some good plant nutrients, but gives it a little bit more of its own microbiome with some bacteria and fungus. And then that will actually help provide a nice base for your plant to grow in. If you're enjoying this channel, then there are more ways to help it grow while growing your love for plants. Become a sustaining member of the channel for the price of a cup of coffee every month. Additionally, you can access the 125 Houseplant Care Spreadsheet with Houseplant Care Tracker, or enroll in the Houseplant Masterclass, which is a month-long audiovisual course on houseplant care and cultivation. Check out more information online or in the description below.